Run, John. It's been fantastic in terms of what you've done with the Innercise and Brainathon.
Well, thank you so much. Listen, you have been an integral part of teaching me about emotions and feelings and showing me how I can turn my own fears into my fuel for success. But before we go there, and before we talk about the Rosenberg Reset Method, which we will, share with me and with the audience, what are emotions?
You know what? You can think of emotions as energy in motion. And when we are reacting and responding to something and we get activated, there's a rush of neurochemicals that go into the bloodstream that when we experience them in our body, we actually call them feelings. So you can actually think of emotion as energy in motion. It's the most simplistic way to think about that.
Got it. And so when we have this emotion, that we call fear, whether we're fearful or afraid of failing, or afraid of succeeding and failing, or a fear of doing our very best and disappointing ourselves, or disappointing our spouses, our kids, fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected, unloved, alone, fear, 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 fear. When we feel that, what's causing this this rush of the energy in motion that we call fear?
You know, you can think of fear as a very hardwired or innate response that we all have, John. And and what ends up happening is that there's a fear circuit, if you will, in the brain, and what it's there for is for the purposes of our survival and for the purposes of our safety. And what ends up happening is that when we feel any kind of threat, whether it's something that we experience from the outside as an external threat, or something that we actually think about or get concerned about, like the judgment that you were talking about, as an internal threat, then that fear circuit kind of kicks in. And what ends up happening is it's basically telling us, avoid, move back, get away, be safe. And it's doing everything it can to keep us in a more safe and secure, or in a space where we're surviving. And as a result, we're also maintaining, oftentimes to some degree, some measure of comfort. So it's the key thing to understand is that it's really directed towards safety and survival.
Got it. And so when somebody wants to, let's say, double or triple their income, or somebody wants to start a business, or somebody wants to grow the business that they have, but they have a perception or a memory of past failures or of somebody else's failures, is this when the fear circuit activates as a cautionary signal for them to be aware?
Absolutely, yes. It can act as that kind of signal because the memory goes, oh, wait a minute, I remember what that felt like, and it felt horrible, or it felt unsafe, or it felt embarrassing, or it felt humiliating, or it felt all sorts of things. And so we can have that same kind of generation from the inside, even from a memory, that can activate a fear. And then the same kind of thing's going to happen. We're going to have that memory and go, oh, I don't want to repeat that. So in order to not repeat that, one pulls back or one avoids.
Got it. And so if I want to do something that's going to help me advance my career, my business, my finances, my life, but there's a memory that may have been negative or disempowering or didn't feel great in the past, I may want to just pull back as a protective mechanism to stay safe. And would it be accurate that when I do that, I may actually be getting a reward for staying safe in my comfort zone because this feels normal and this feels okay and I could be, protecting myself and that feels good?
Well, yes, absolutely, that's true. The challenge is, I think people are left feeling two things in that situation, John. One is that desire for success and the desire to move forward. and that when one, if you will, pulls back to avoid any future pain or avoid any repeat of something that they may have experienced before that did not work out, where they were embarrassed or they felt, like I said, humiliated, then it does keep them in a comfort zone, but it also is unsatisfying or dissatisfying in a particular way as well. So the hard part is, while it keeps us safe in sort of in a comfort zone, we're still left with other kinds of feelings that we have not actually taken the risks or taken the actions that are needed to move us forward in the ways that we actually say we desire, that we're dreaming of.
Got it. And so what are the primary emotions or feelings that people want to move away from, and why is it so easy to get stuck there? What is it that people are really trying to avoid?
Well, again, you can think of us as avoiding discomfort largely, and again, we want to move away from pain. That's the way we're designed. Move away from anything that smacks of pain. So if it's some kind of an emotional hurt, some kind of a physical concern, then the direction is we're going to be pulling away from pain and trying to stay in that comfort zone. But when I've spent time, thinking about how to help people move forward and how to kind of help them push through the things that are painful, it's helping them understand that we're really avoiding or attempting to avoid a variety of what I call unpleasant or difficult feelings. And some of these feelings are feelings like feeling frustrated or angry or embarrassed. And it might include being fearful of the, fear or anxiety or concerns about being judged. There's a whole range of possibilities that in terms of the kind of feelings that people want to move away from. So the key is it's learning how to be able to build in, if you will, an anticipation of some of this unpleasantness and developing the muscle, the emotional muscle, to be able to move forward.
Got it. And can you learn how to do that at any age? That just out of curiosity?
Yeah, absolutely any age. What I like to say, John, is if you have the capacity to think, then you have the capacity to change. So that if you have a fairly normally functioning brain, or neurotypical of what we might call it, then what ends up happening is if you can actually think about the things that you want to pursue, then you have the capacity to change.
I love it. Now,
so any age.
I know that fear holds a lot of people. Love it, good. And I know that fear holds so many people hostage, not because of the fear, it's because they don't have the tools on what to do with fear. And others, like I've had to learn this, turning my fear, what I'm afraid of, into my fuel for success, reasons I must take action. So how can we use fear or any other maybe negative or disempowering emotion to fuel us forward so that we make progress and achieve our financial goals, our life goals, our fantasy life together?
Fear, John, isn't the problem. It's letting our fear be the problem that is the problem. So part of the way to think about this is that if you can plan, if you will, for feelings like fear, or feelings like embarrassment, or feelings like frustration, or disappointment, or anger, if you build in, if you have the level of awareness that experiencing these feelings is all part of the journey to success, and you actually have a level of awareness, and as a result of that, some planning around that, you can absolutely develop the skills to turn these kinds of feelings into fuel for your success.
So what I'm hearing is you can learn to feel the feelings you can learn to not allow the feelings to control you, and you can actually learn to take maybe the extra cortisol or adrenaline that is being caused by the fear, but then channel your focus and attention to taking action steps safely towards what you want. Is that a good shortcut?
That's an absolute shortcut. And yes, that works. The beauty of it is when those chemicals are in your system, and you know that that's part of the journey, you can actually kind of reframe what your experience is around this and go, all right, I'm feeling that excited state. That doesn't mean I need to pull back and I'm afraid. I'm going to use that excited state to actually take more action. So when you have greater awareness of how you experience feeling, whether it's fear or some other kind of feeling, the beauty of it is you can turn any bit of that into fuel for success.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So let's dive into, if we can, to the Rosenberg Reset Method. If you could take a couple moments to explain what the Rosenberg Reset Method is. And everyone, as Dr. Rosenberg is about to do this, I want you to think of a fear that you have, a fear that may be holding you back, and apply it to that fear, and know that you can feel fear and do it anyway. Every highly successful Olympic athlete, entrepreneur, firefighter, teacher, anybody that is human feels fear. And what separates those from being ordinary versus extraordinary is just taking that little extra energy and channeling it towards the success and the goals that you want. So Dr. Joan Rosenberg, the Rosenberg Reset Method, please.
Yes, absolutely. So very briefly, the reason this came about was because I was trying to understand what made it difficult for people to experience and move through unpleasant feelings. And we know that these unpleasant feelings are part of that journey to success. So that I came up with a formula, and the Rosenberg Reset is basically 1 choice, 8 feelings, 90 seconds. That's the way to think about it. So that what is the 1 choice? The 1 choice is choosing into awareness as opposed to avoidance. And we've been talking about fear as leaning towards avoidance. So what does avoidance look like? It looks like using substances. It might be drinking alcohol. It might be smoking weed. It might be shopping. It might be gambling. It might be being on screens all the time and being lost in all sorts of social media. So the list is endless in terms of what avoidance looks like. And instead, the choice that I'm asking people to make is awareness. So I'm wanting you to be as aware of and in touch with as much of your moment-to-moment experience as possible. That's the 1 choice. The 8 feelings, again, what I found is that people felt more capable of handling life and life choices when they were able to manage 8 unpleasant or 8 difficult feelings. So the 8 feelings are sadness, shame, helplessness, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration. So again, why these 8? Because they're the most common reactions we have to things not turning out the way that we love or the way that we believe they need to be turning out for us. So that again, it's these 8 feelings because of the commonality of them. It's the everydayness of them. And then the 90 seconds is sort of the method then for leaning into unpleasant feelings. And again, we were talking earlier that when a feeling gets triggered, there's a rush of biochemicals into the bloodstream that activate bodily sensations. And for most of us, it's these bodily sensations that help us know what we're feeling emotionally. And what I realized is that it's not that we don't want to feel the full range of what we feel. It's that we don't want to feel the bodily sensation that helps us know what we're feeling emotionally, and that's often what we're backing away from, whether it's like a feeling of embarrassment, a feeling of disappointment, or even the feeling of fear. So that if we have the sense of how, what, and where we experience these bodily sensations in our body that represent these feelings, and we have that awareness, we can, you often talk about, John, about this idea of being calm and responsive as opposed to being reactive. And so that the idea here then is that you want to be able to have the awareness and be able to be calm and responsive in these moments so that you're actually responding to the feeling and moving through it, or riding these short-lived bodily sensation waves. So that any given wave lasts roughly an upper limit of 90 seconds. So again, the one choice, awareness, it's these 8 feelings, and then you're going to lean into and ride short-lived bodily sensation waves to be able to move through these difficult feelings.
I love it. One choice, 8 feelings, 90 seconds, the Rosenberg reset method. This is something that Joan has helped me practice for several years. She teaches it to all of our members in NeuroGym and in the Winning Game of Money Brain Training and Coaching program. As you know, she's a super sharp professor at Pepperdine University teaching the PhD program. This stuff works. Now, if anyone has a fear, if anyone has these unpleasant emotions that's maybe holding you back, that you don't like to feel, first and foremost, there's nothing wrong with you, but you just may have been up until now ignorant, meaning you just don't know. But now that you know, it's time to apply it. And you don't get, strong in the gym by exercising one time or going for a hike or one bike ride. You get strong, okay, through practice. You get strong by implementation. You get strong by getting better each and every day, every week, every month. But the part that you have to play is be committed to getting better and making progress. And if you do it at your own pace, you make progress. And if you make progress, you could run a marathon a year from now if that's what you chose. You could build $1 million business within a year. You can get into the best shape of your life in a short period of time, but you have to make decisions and then become more capable to achieve what is readily achievable for you and for me and for everybody else. Does that make sense, everyone? Type in the chat, that makes sense. Dr. Joan Rosenberg, I know that this is one of your passions, helping people. You're a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, but most importantly, you are one of the most beautiful people I know who just loves to help others with your specialty and expertise. So what I want to do is thank you so much for being on the NeuroGym faculty of experts. Thank you so much for being on the 10th annual Brainathon and joining the celebration and party. And I look forward to having more of your wisdom and experience in our community with all of the members that join us, in this coaching program that we have for them. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you so much. I just love you being a part of our orbit and making such a difference in the world.
John, thank you so much for having me. And if there's one thing that I really want to say to you, is the beauty of being with you across these years is that I've had the opportunity to witness so many success stories of the people who've been engaged in this program. So my first recommendation is this is the place to go to really build that emotional muscle and to be able to turn your fear, to work on that emotional muscle and build that emotional muscle so that you can turn your fear into fuel for success.
I love it. All right, everyone, you have heard from the one, the only, Dr. Joan Rosenberg. Please give her an incredible thank you in the chat and make sure you take a look at her books and go to her website. She is just a pillar of knowledge and information and just incredible member of our scientific advisory team. So thank you again, Dr. Joan Rosenberg. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. All right, everyone.